Welcome back to Lego by the Book. I am Captain Xavier. Today I'm going to be building set 6207, which is an A-Wing fighter from one of the early Star Wars lines. Not the earliest. It's a couple of years after they started it, so it's not terrible. And I'm pretty sure I already have this one in my collection, so this one may end up going to a friend. But I'm going to build it anyway because it's fun. I definitely probably haven't built it since 2006, so here we go. We start with our minis. We have two minis, and this is the point at which they had changed the skin tone to peach instead of yellow, but they still had just regular smiley faces, which is very weird and slightly disconcerting. They also hadn't started making as many custom molds for like helmets and so forth, so they just have a standard, motorcycle style helmet, but it's kind of got markings like an A-Wing pilot's helmet, but that wasn't until much later that they actually came out with a dedicated A-Wing pilot helmet that looked like the one in the movie. And this guy just appears to have a bike helmet on his head. Anyway, those are our minis. Pretty cool. So now we're going to build a cart, apparently. And there we have our cart, which is actually pretty neat. It gives you a ladder to be able to get up into the fighter and bin for whatever. I suppose you could actually have the pilot ride in there. Let's get you to where you're going. Mostly as an excuse to give you a few extra parts and to give you some ground crew, which is really actually very considerate of them because it made it much easier for us to be able to build like hangar bay mocks and whatnot when you have the ground crew troops, because without that it'd be much more difficult to make a really fleshed out mock, because you just have pilots and main characters, and now you've got the background characters, so that's pretty neat, I think. Let's build a fighter. And there it is. And I'm genuinely impressed with it. I don't know if this was the first A-Wing design or if this was perhaps the second. I'd have to check. But this one is really, really nice for a lot of reasons, especially given how few specialty parts were involved. This was still before they'd really started coming out with lots and lots of specialty parts, and a lot of techniques hadn't really been developed. So the fins are entirely brick-built. They don't have any kind of an angle to them. Later ones would, because they figured out how to do that. There is plenty of slope to the body. It really does have the look and feel of an A-Wing. It's the only thing that isn't svelte enough, really, are those fins are a little bit chunky, but it's really not bad. And the engine design and the blasters and all of that is pretty cool. There were a few parts missing, but nothing I wasn't able to replace because, again, most of the parts from this era were fairly standard, and I have them. So the cockpit does open, which is actually really nice and opens easily. And then there is a hatch back here where there's supposed to be a little box, but that wasn't included, and I didn't bother to try to dig it out. I probably have. Well, I know I've got boxes that would have fit, but yeah. The one thing I don't much care for is how reclined the pilot is, and I'm actually gonna see how easy it would be to correct that, because he's almost lying down. It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be when I first was looking at the instructions, but I'm still going to see how easily I would be able to get him a little more upright. So we're going to take a look. I'm just going to need to dig in a little bit and undo a little. We'll see how much. So the biggest thing that I'm going to be replacing is one 12-wide beam with a pair of 4x4, one 12-wide plate with two 4x4 plates and two 1x4 plates in order to allow for a deeper cockpit. I've gone a little too deep. Now he can't see over his instrument pad. Graded him a seat. We'll hopefully now get him up to the height that I want. Not quite interesting. Huh. Alright. Alright. Perfect. So I ended up only actually lowering him by 1 plate. I was expecting to lower him considerably lower, but now he is in fact decidedly more upright. He actually can even go a little bit more, and the cockpit will still close. So that was a minor change, but I think it makes a difference, and so I'm gonna run with it. I checked, and this was definitely not the first A-Wing. I do have the first A-Wing, and it is, as most of the original Star Wars line was, an atrocity. And I kind of get the feeling this isn't the right canopy. I think it's supposed to be a more clear canopy than this one. That one's thoroughly tinted, but anyway. This was the second generation and was much better. And then the third generation wasn't a whole lot different than this. The biggest thing it had was retracting landing gear, and that was the only huge improvement that I saw from this one to that one. So, yeah. Anyway. Thank you for watching. Eminently swooshable. Ultimate swoosh. Take the landing gear off and swoosh, swoosh. Let me know what you guys think of this A-Wing. If there was which of the various A-Wings that have existed was your favorite, and which one was your first. And thank you guys for watching.